Thanks for joining me. I'm Megan and Bodie the Sleeping Lab and Mr. Bones, who made it over to Ireland with me. If you saw last week's practice, my SI, my sacroiliac joint, had slipped out, which just means it comes slightly cockeye and it's really painful. So last week's practice was some gentle movement just to keep things moving and hopefully get it to go back into place to reset it. So I've been progressing, and this week's practice is some of the things that I do to begin to build strength to support the SI joint. Particularly, we're going to be working with the legs because the SI joint is what takes all the weight of your upper body and distributes it into the legs. So I find that keeping the thighs strong and even the bottoms of the legs really helps to stabilize the SI joint. And then the second half of the video, we'll be doing some soothing, gentle stretches. So if you're like me and you got excited, you're feeling better, and you overdid it in the yard, the soothing stretches are a nice thing to do for the SI joint to relax. So you will need a couple of blocks today for the beginning half, the standing portion, and then you'll also want a couple of balls for the second half for the soothing portion, and a strap, and that we'll be doing on the ground. Briefly, while I have Mr. Bones here, just want to show you one of the things I found in having this SI joint dysfunction is that the aggravation comes particularly in certain yoga poses. So if you were to step your leg out to the side, that's what we call abduction. So Mr. Bones can do that for you, abduction. That combined with what we call external rotation, or turning your leg out. So abduction, external rotation. He's quite mobile in his joints. And you'll think about it, in yoga we do that in a lot of postures. So I really find that those aggravate that SI joint. So when I go to strengthening, particularly the legs, take a moment in your standing pose and think about trying to line your earlobes over the tops of your shoulders. Then visualize that line going down to your hips. You could even touch those front hips, the ASIS points. And then run those lines down either side of your legs, right through the centers of your kneecaps, even through the centers of your knees, down to the ankles, and into the middle toes. This is my safe space. And what can be helpful for me in strengthening is if you think of just slightly internally rotating your thighs. So place your hands on your thighs and just roll them in just a little bit. And what that does is it actually creates a little more space without overstretching those ligaments, which if you have SI dysfunction, the ligaments have probably been stretched out on that one grumpy side. So we can create stabilization and activation through the legs just by gently rolling the thigh bones in, pushing slightly down through your heel bones and the balls of the feet, soften the toes. And let's just take a few breaths here before we get started. How does it feel? Do you feel straight? Do you feel strong? Can you feel that space of sacrum? You can even touch your sacred sacrum. And where is that weight transferring from your upper body through the sacrum and maybe even the whole pelvic rim, the whole bowl of the pelvis, and down into the legs? And then with the magic of camera, I'm going to roll Mr. Bones out of the picture. And let's get started with our practice. So we found ourselves in this beautiful line. Feel your 2 feet. And just let your weight transfer into your left leg. Just feel yourself shift your hips to your left. And when you're far enough to the left where you feel like you can lift your right foot up, you might just start by coming onto your toes. If it feels okay, try to lift the right leg all the way up to a 90-degree angle so the thigh bone is parallel to the floor. And see if you can still keep some of that alignment of ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. So the whole upper body shifts. And then slowly take it down. Come back to the center line. Find yourself on your right foot. So just that little bit of shifting of the pelvis, but the ears, the head, the shoulders, everything else follows. Come on to the left toes. Maybe lift up. See how that feels. So we're going to just go side to side, checking it out. Left foot goes back down. Something I'm cautious of too, particularly my left side's my grumpy side. So as I come into that left leg, definitely feels a little more pressure in that SI joint. So I try to keep my left knee soft. I don't want to lock the knee, but at the same time, I want to internally rotate that thigh, push the heel and the ball of the foot into the ground, so the muscles are activated without locking the knee. And then just keep going side to side. See how that feels. Take your time. Lifting to 90 degrees. Next time you find yourself landing on your left leg and lifting the right leg, we're going to pause. Now have you use your hands. If you feel tippy, you can take one hand to a wall. Please do. Otherwise, a little balance coming in here. So you're going to take your hands either to the back of the right thigh or to the shin. Draw that in as tight as you can. So you're going to feel that right hip stretching out. See if it's your grumpy side that's you're standing on, you may not be ready for that yet, but give it a little stretch. And then get that leg as high as you can. So here's the thing, we just use our hands or maybe a hand if you're using the wall to get the leg up. Stay there, but release the hands and see if you can use your muscles to hold that leg there for just a few breaths. Still pushing in, you can be holding the wall. It can be balanced, doesn't have to be, use the wall. You're strengthening your legs just for a few breaths, keeping yours over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips. And then very slowly, let that leg come back down. Pause for a moment. So if you were standing on your grumpy leg, you might feel just a little bit of burning. You have to decide if it's appropriate for you. Now let's shift to the other side, weight into the right leg. And if it's not, only stand on your happy leg. Because now we're going to bring that left leg up. So for me, this feels good. I'm going to come to the 90 degrees first. Use my helping hands to bring the leg in initially. So my arms, the strength of my arms are bringing that leg as tight to the body as I can. But I'm going to release the arms of their duty and use the muscles to hold the leg there. And just take a few breaths. You'll notice it'll slowly start to drop. Try to stay strong. Draw it in. You can even draw the top of the foot towards your shin. That right knee is soft, but you're drawing the more you push into the floor with your right foot, the more you can draw the energy up the right leg and into the pelvis. One more time. And slowly take it down. Just shift your weight from side to side. We're going to go back into the left leg. So again, if you find your standing leg, your grumpy leg's not ready to be the standing leg, just keep doing the same side. But I am going to try to find balance by doing both. Weight into the left leg, same thing, draw that right leg up. This time without using your hands, use your muscular strength to draw the leg as high as you can. Push into the standing leg. And then we're going to take it into just a little rotation movement. So you're going to slowly, again, hand can be on a wall. Take the right leg across to the left. And come back. So definitely a lot of balance going on here. But you can do it with your hand on a wall. And you're just taking a slight rotation. Allowing, as you turn, think of moving from the pelvis as far as you can go. I'm not using my hand to take it across. I'm using the muscles of the leg. Should get a nice stretch in that right butt cheek as well as activating it. And then take it into that rotation. If you want to take your left hand to your right knee, you can. Right hand might be at the wall. Stand up strong on your left leg. Find your balance. And feel how strong your legs are. Take it back. Let it come down. Pause for a moment. Just shift your weight from side to side. Might even make circles with your hips. And then feeling. I often do it with my eyes closed because it's a felt sense thing. That's part of the embodiment is if I just say, just lift your leg. But feel your pelvis and your ears and your shoulders all shift over the right leg. Just the right amount. Let that left leg come up. You can keep it at 90 degrees. You can go a little further if you want. That's more stretch for that back area by the SI. But it's an active stretch, right? The muscles are active. And then we're going to go across. Might just be a couple inches. That's okay. And back. So instead of external rotation out to the side, we're doing this internal rotation, which creates a little bit of space in the sacrum. Right in that SI joint, I should say. Back and forth. Hand could be on a wall. Take some of the balance out of it. Going nice and slow. Make your muscles work for you in your legs. And then take it across. If you want to take your right hand, by all means do, just to increase the stretch if it feels okay. But then think of gently pushing your outer knee into your right hand. So your hand's not holding or stabilizing the leg. Your muscles are. The hand is there to push into, to create more stability, more form or force in the pose. And then release that. Take it down. Come back onto both legs. You can shift your weight side to side. So that was kind of testing out the two sides. Now we'll go into a symmetrical movement of both legs. We call it chair pose in yoga. Some people call them air squats, whatever you want to call them. They're great to get the legs moving and to release the sacrum. The more we can activate the leg muscles, I find, the more the SI joint gets to take a vacation. So lining yourself again, ears, shoulders, hips, toes. Very simply, you're going to inhale, and let's take the upper body into it. Roll your arm bones. This is external rotation for the arm bones. Roll them out. Lift your heart a little bit. And then as you exhale, you're going to sit down, and at first just take your hands to your thighs and see how that feels. But keep your heart open, your collarbone spread. As you inhale, press into the heels and the balls of the feet. Come up. Feel those leg muscles beginning to work. Open up through the arms. Exhale. Hands can come to the thighs. Sit down. So a really important point when we're doing this is how we use the feet. In fact, unfortunately, my son just broke his little toe, and we have this whole discussion about the triangle in the foot and how important it is. So when you're feeling yourself, we're sitting down on the exhale, and we're coming up on the inhale. Think of the big toe mound, the little toe mound, very important, that little toe, and the heel. And push into those areas to come up. That'll help to activate all the leg muscles. Internally rotate those thighs just a little bit as you come up. Keep that stability as you exhale and sit down. Go very slow. So I'm going to take it into a movement that's not one breath per movement, but even slower. So now let's do an inhalation. Open up. And then as you exhale, slowly sit a little bit more each time. If it feels okay, you can begin to take your hands up in front of you. So we're going to find our lowest squatting chair that we can find. Keep those legs alive, sometimes just gently bouncing in the legs. If you don't feel the back end, your business end working for you, push into the heels. Notice when you push into the heels, that'll help to activate your glutes, and your SI joint appreciates that. If you don't feel the fronts of the thighs, then rock slightly forward onto the balls of the feet. That helps to activate the front line of the body. A few more breaths. I know you're breathing. So as deep as you can. And then inhale, press into the triangle of your feet and come up. Pause for a moment. Can you feel your legs? Because that means your SI joint is happy, feeling that stability. Let's do one more there with a nice slow drop and a hold. Inhale, open up the chest. Ears over the shoulders, shoulders over the hips. So keep that long spine, what we call an axial spine. Exhale, slowly come down. So one of the things you might notice if you're a little bit weaker in the thighs is your knees will dive inward. One of the options for that, take a block because you got it there anyhow. Put it between your thighs, whatever width keeps the knees over the ankles. So we're not doing that inner diving of the knees. You're hugging the thigh bones in, but you're not letting the knees come inside the ankles. You're trying to keep the knees more over the ankles, hugging in. It's nice to hug that block because I find that the more I can activate the inner thigh muscles, the adductors, that also helps to relieve that SI joint. It's like it likes that. The other thing I'll mention is that in yoga, you'll hear a lot of teachers tell you that your toes shouldn't go in front of your knees. I'm here to debunk that and tell you that in every other movement modality, they now have done studies that there's no problem with your knees going in front of your toes. So find where it feels good for you. Maybe bouncing it just a little bit. If you pulsate, you can really get the thighs. It's like the muscles are wrapping around your thigh bones. You can feel your calves. Hands can be up here or at the heart center or even on your thighs. Take a few more breaths. Hug that block in between the thighs. So you'll notice if you didn't hug the block in the first round and you are this time, you may notice that you didn't have those inner thigh muscles engaged last time, right? How does it feel now? And watch that we're not falling into the arches of the feet. A few more breaths, wherever your hands are. Send soothing energy to your SI joint. Feel how strong your legs are supporting your body on the earth. And then slowly come up. Go ahead and take that block out. All right. So last week's video, we were hugging that block and doing some nice gentle movements. So if this is too much for you, go back to that one. We're going to move back on to more of a asymmetrical movement, one side and then the other. And this again, you're going to want your blocks. So let's take both blocks in front of us first. Let's take your hands on your thighs. Inhale, open that heart up. Keep your chest open, your spine long. As exhale, bend your knees just like you were doing, but slide your hands down to your thighs. And then see if you can find your blocks. So I still have a big bend in my knees. Slowly, I'm going to start to push into the heels and see if I can lengthen the leg line. You're going to be stretching your hamstrings. You may find you need to keep more bend in your knees, and that's absolutely fine. Keep the hands there. And then you're going to take the weight into the left foot. You're going to slowly begin to lift the right foot up. And as you do so, extend the right leg to whatever degree you can. So here's the trick, and I'm going to try to show it from, I'm going to have to show you my business end. So what often happens in this pose is we automatically start to lift the leg, and it goes into external rotation and abduction. So you want to really focus on keeping all 5 toes pointing down towards the floor. One way you can tell if you're doing that is to take a block or even a ball. Think you want to keep your pelvis squared off, so I'll put a block back there. And imagine I have a tray of tea on my sacrum, right? And I want to keep that sacrum aligned, internally rotating the right thigh, pushing back. And then you're going to exhale, slowly squeeze that thigh in. So it might be that you're only ready to stand on your strong leg, and you can pull in the grumpy side and extend it. But either way, keep that pelvis squared off as you pull in and extend out. And you're really going to start to feel, you should feel the back line of your leg, that leg that's lifting, as well as your standing leg. Do one more. So again, my grumpy side is saying that's enough for that side. I'm going to switch it out. Take your blocks down. Just come up and stand for a moment. Take that pause. Align it's like 2 tracks from your ears down to your middle toes. Align those tracks and just feel the 2 sides of your body. So you want to center on that sacred sacrum every time you come back, especially after doing these asymmetrical movements. You can even feel like your nose is over the center of your pelvis. And then let's do the opposite side. So you can bend your knees, come down. Might keep more of a bend in the knee. You're going to want your standing leg knee soft either way. You can keep both blocks for more stability, or take one of the blocks, a book, anything you want, and put it on your back. I like to do that as my reminder. So weight's going to the right foot this time. You're going to lift up your left leg. So both blocks stay there. If you want, one block could go on your sacrum. Little trick I do. And then when you're ready, keep all 5 toes pointing down. Draw the left leg in, squeeze it in, and slowly extend it out. All 5 toes pointing down. So the other thing you want to watch for, I could feel myself doing this just now, is I'm going forward. My hip is forward of my ankle. With this one, you do want to try to keep the hip back. So think of taking your right thigh bone to the back of the mat. Keeping that ankle right underneath your hip. So we're not here in this forward position. In fact, you'll feel your heel begin to lift up. Keep that pressure in the heel. All three of the points of the triangle on your standing leg. The points of the triangle in your foot. Strengthening into it. Take your time. And let the left leg come down. It's a lot of work. So a squat can be a really nice way to relax the back. But coming into a squat, most people will externally rotate their feet. So see if you can do it with your feet more forward. You can't really internally rotate, but keep your knees more in line with your ankles. You can come onto your toes. Stretch that low back out. If here doesn't work, try putting either the blocks underneath your knees for a little support. You can stretch the soles of your feet out. You could also do this by sitting on those blocks. Take a seat. But I'm just trying to avoid letting the legs come all the way out. If anything, I'm going to hug the thigh bones in as I squat. And just take a moment here. Sit down. Let the low back stretch out. It's nice with blocks, right? If you don't want the blocks. A little more work. You can come to here, hugging your thighs together. Sometimes I'll even do it with the block in between the thighs. That reminder to engage those adductor muscles in the inner thighs. And if you get that there, see if you can use the strength of your leg muscles to slowly come up. Okay. Removing the block. We've got yet another asymmetrical movement, but in doing those, I like to bring things back to the center line. So before we do the asymmetrical, grab your block and put it to what other width keeps your knees over your ankles. So this is a little too narrow for me. I usually go to the second setting. Squeeze that block with your thighs and just take a few, sit down. And notice how now you have all of the muscles wrapped around your pelvis and your thighs working for you, both sides. Just finding that space of grace where everything is responding equally on both sides of your pelvis and your legs. Sending love to your sacrum to relax. Let it feel the stability. You can even sit there and pulsate for a few breaths. If you want to take your hands up, build a little more energy, you're welcome to. And relax. So the next one we do, we're going to keep the right leg where it is. Step the left foot slightly forward to the right foot. So my left heel is just barely in front of my right big toe. So not a big step, just a little one. And then you're going to lift up onto the ball of the right foot to see how that feels. And then you're going to take your left foot and lift up onto the ball of the left foot. So that in itself, you're going to begin to feel your calf muscles activate. Just do that a few times. Lift your right heel, lift your left heel, drop back down. Right heel lifts, left heel lifts. You'll see there's this tendency to want to shake again. Keep everything in line, ears, shoulders, hips, knees, ankles, as best you can. Next time you come up, we're going to change the movement a little bit. Keep those heels lifted. And now, slowly bend into both knees, coming down as far as you can. Watch your knees aren't falling in or out. Push into the balls of the feet. Come up. You can come in for a landing, take a little break, or sometimes I'll just continue to do it. So lift the heels up, slowly come down as deep as you can. Push into the balls of the feet, lift up. Maybe come down or go right into the next one. So if I do this more as a traditional yoga vinyasa, you can add inhale, lifting up, lift your heels, lift your hands. Exhale, come down, sitting deep. So this one will really strengthen the lower half of your legs, your ankles, calves, coming down. You can still get that little hug in of the thighs without letting the knees collapse. I'm good at showing the collapsing. I think I have this one in my feet and ankle strengthening video. But it's great for the SI joint. Anything that keeps those legs stable. Take a few more, nice and easy. Might start to shake a little bit. Both legs are working now, they're just slightly different position. And come down, relax. I bet you know where your calves are. Pause for a moment, you can just shift your weight. If you did hip circles earlier and that felt good, you might even do like a figure 8 movement with your hips. If you need a little bit more of your body into that, you can move your hips, move your arms. Anything that feels good. That's the beauty of home videos, right? There's nobody there watching you in a class. Do whatever you want right now. Let your freak flag fly. Let's switch to the other side. Coming back to that center line, we want to find that center. Your SI joint appreciates that. Weight into left foot. Right foot is stepping slightly in front of the left. So heel just in front of the big toe of the left foot. Lift your left heel up. And when I'm lifting my left heel, I'm also thinking of plugging the left thigh bone into the hip. Then lift your right heel up, plug that thigh bone into the hip, and then let them come down. Left heel lifts, right heel lifts. You can feel the muscles in your calves shorten when you do that, right? They're working for you. Those lovely calf muscles. A lot of people will stand on the edge of stairs, drop their heel down to do calf raises and strengthen. I find this works great. And the next time you have both heels lifted, see if you can maintain that. And then slowly bend into the knees. The knees are going to want to shake. Go slow and keep them in line with the ankles and the toes. Lift back up. You can come out of it completely, especially if your toes are cramping, come off. Something that can be really helpful is to think of not so much pushing into the toes, but the ball of the foot. Keep the toes soft if there is such a thing. Toes are relaxed. Feel that whole front of the foot. And sense your calf muscles. If you want to make it more of a vinyasa style, you're welcome to inhale, lift up. Exhale, sink down. That little bit of hugging to the midline. Hug your inner thighs. I think of, even though they're not rotating in, I'm thinking of internally hugging in and rotating my thigh bones. It just gives that sacrum a little more soothe space and letting the legs do the work. Let me know if that works for you. Or if all you have right now is calf muscles talking to you, that's okay too. Last one. Sink as deep as you want. Come up. And come down. Continuing with staying in that center line. We're going to do some more strengthening. This time I'm going to turn sideways to my mat. You're going to want both blocks in front of you. We'll start with the left leg as our forward leg, and your right leg is going to be back. We're going to come all the way down onto the right knee. So just check in, see if that feels okay. Take the blocks, because if you don't use the blocks, you're going to be very rounded through your spine. Take your heart forward. And just take some movement back and forth first. See how that feels. So if when you're going forward, your heel is lifting up, then I recommend you move your foot a little bit further forward. The other side is if your foot's way too forward, I don't see that too often. Then you're going to feel like you're overstretching that back right thigh, the front of the thigh. So find that left foot wherever you need it to be, and just take it back and forth first, just a gentle stretch, preparing your legs and your pelvis. And then find that space where you can come forward without overdoing it, just a nice little stretch in the right thigh. Imagine hugging your inner thighs towards one another. So squeeze so you feel strong. So instead of just flopping into it, I'm hugging to what I say the midline, that center line in the body. Roll your back right toe under if it's not there already. And then this one, you're just going to press into the left foot, that triangle. Press the ball mount of the right foot into the ground. Lift your right leg up. And drop it back down. And just see how that feels. If your blocks are way out here, bring them to where you can keep your shoulders more over your hips. And you're just lifting up and dropping down. So think of pushing into the left foot, hugging the thighs, and then using both legs to lift you up. And slowly come back down. If you want to do it to your breath, you can inhale and lift, hug in, and exhale and drop. So you're getting a little stretch, but you're strengthening those legs. Think of drawing the left hip to the back of the mat and the right hip to the front of the mat simultaneously. Really strong through the pelvis. And just small, slow motions. Not to say you won't feel this tomorrow. Next time we lift up, so sometimes we do this in a class, in a yoga class, as a lunge, and you're going to lift up, keep that back leg strong, use your arms. When you're using your arms, instead of holding the blocks, push into the blocks, draw your shoulders back. So use your arms like you're almost like if you were in a plank pose. And now, instead of lifting the right leg up, you're going to take the left leg back and hug the thighs together. So again, you're hugging in and then releasing. So squeeze the inner thighs, left hip back again, right hip forward, and then release. Squeezing thighs, we're still at that midline. If you're really rounded through your spine, see if you can come out more, heart forward, draw your tailbone back. And sometimes the legs won't go all the way straight. If you're a little tighter through your hamstrings or anything like that, that's all good. It's not how far you go. It's not about flexibility. It's about strengthening. Feel the engagement of the thighs as you squeeze them together. And then release. If you've done my videos on pelvic floor and transverse abdominis, you know what I'm talking about, then do this on your exhale and think of hugging the pelvic floor up and in and the TVAs. So using the base of support for your pelvis and your SI joint is the pelvic floor muscles and your TVAs. So really important deep core muscles that are helping you to lift along with the leg muscles. And again, the SI joint likes that. Take a few more. And then when you're ready, take the weight into the left foot, step the right foot next to it, slowly come up. We'll do the second side, but stand for a moment. Come back into your center. Always give yourself that pause, that magic pause. Even if it's things like to notice perspiration on your skin or that your breathing has changed. If you have this SI joint function, you've been in pain, at the end of every one of these movements, it's like a little celebration, right? You're feeling better. You're able to do these things. Take that moment of celebration. Feel the two sides of your body, any changes that have occurred. Let your heart rate come back into rhythm, your breath. And then we're going to do it all again. So this time, your right foot will be forward and your left foot would be back. Again, if this aggravates anything, then you're only doing the one side that it doesn't aggravate. Right foot forward, left foot back. You want to make sure both hips are pointing forward. So sometimes we have to drag that left hip bone a little bit more forward to square off the pelvis. Find your blocks for coming all the way down back to the left knee first. Pause there. By the way, if your knee is an issue, the back knee, you can double up your mat, or some people will even put something additionally underneath, but you can double up your mat for that back knee. Right foot forward, positioning of right foot, really important. If it's too far to the back of the mat, then when I lunge forward, my heel's going to lift up. I'm not going to get any stability from that front leg. If it's too far to the front of the mat, then when I come here, I'm going to be overstretched in the front of that left hip joint. So find that happy medium. Knees should be about as wide as your hips. So another thing I often see is people will come into this posture and their legs are like in a straight line. Keep it wide. Keep your ankles as wide as your hips. More stability there. Find that midline. And first just rock back and forth. Keeping that tall spine. A little stretching going on first. And then we want to feel active. So sense that triangle in your right foot, big toe, little toe, and heel. Roll your back toes under, because that's all you have to work with there. Is not so much the toes, but the ball mount of that foot. And when you're ready, push into the front leg. Imagine bringing the right hip to the back of the mat, the left hip forward, or hugging your inner thighs. Like you had that block between your thighs again. And lift up that back knee. Hugging together. Left hip forward, right hip back. And slowly coming down. Squeezing to the midline. And releasing. Just notice what muscles you feel engaging. Taking your time. Arms are strong too. Instead of falling into the blocks, I'm going to push into them. Shoulders back. Collarbones are smiling. Maybe. Hopefully you're smiling. Bodhi's not snoring, so that's a reason to smile. I just wonder if you ever laugh at my jokes at home. Please let me know. As you squeeze together and release. Doesn't matter how high, you might barely be able to fit a piece of paper under your knee. It's the hugging in that matters, not how high we go. You're going to feel those muscles activate in your legs and around the pelvis. You're squeezing in. Last one. And this time, see if you can stay lifted. Keep that back leg strong. So hug the left thigh bone forward, inner thighs hugging together. And then you're going to really squeeze the thigh bones together, trying to straighten the front leg. And then bend into it. So I like to use my breath because I'm going to include some of those deep core muscles, the pelvic floor and the TVAs. On exhale, I squeeze in. Imagine lifting the pelvic floor up, inner thighs hugging in, and then coming down. It's like the SI joint responds. It feels all of that stability around the pelvis, the legs, and it can relax a little bit more. Squeezing in. It's like the left hip is coming forward, right hip back. Think of that hip crease shooting back on the right leg. Coming down. Just gentle movement, but staying strong, active. The passive part will come. Feel your glutes and your buttocks muscles, right? A few more. Moving nice and slow. And then settle in. Step forward. Keep the knees softly bent. Come on up. You can place your hands on your heart. Whenever I feel my heart beating a little faster, to me it's a reminder of life. Feel your heartbeat. Center breath. Feel that center. And if you still feel tension in your legs, just gently moving your heels on the ground, shaking out your legs. You can take a big inhale. Rise up, create space. Exhale, let gravity just hold you, let your bones hold you. Allow the muscles to relax. 3 more rounds of breath here. Simply standing. Stand and feel. All right. One more standing movement we're going to do today. This one does require balance, but Again, you're welcome to go to a wall. We'll start by shifting the weight into the left leg. So we're going to do knee bends. I'm not saying deep knee bends because they might be slight knee bends, but one leg. So remember we did 2 legs earlier, right? Same idea, but shift the weight into the left leg. You can have your left hand on a wall if you'd like. Take your right leg up. You're going to keep that right leg. I like to hug it all the way up and in. It creates more muscular energy, drawing it up the further up I can go without using my hands to hold it. And then you're going to gently bend into that left knee, just a little bit. Push into the ball mount of the foot and the heel, that triangle, to lift back up. Imagine drawing your thigh bone into your hip and drop back down. So something that'll often happen, and if you do see your right hip lifting up, so you're in a shift here, like a tilt, then you might want to think about keeping the right knee more in line with the hip or the thigh bone parallel to the floor, because you want to try to keep the right hip equal to the left. You can take your hands to the front of the hips. So we don't want to be here, even if it's just a little knee bend. So if you can keep the right hip crease low, but draw the leg in, if that makes sense, just little knee bends. If you can get that sense of when you push into your heel, your left heel, you're activating the back line of the left leg. And when you press into the ball of the foot, you're activating the front. But the right leg's active too. Watch this one too, is another one where you'll find your knee will start to wobble and go in and out a little ways. And then take that right foot down. Relax for a moment, come back to your center. Hopefully you're feeling like your legs are doing something to support the weight of your upper body. That's what we want. We don't want to feel like the sacrum has to do all the work, that joint. It all falls on the joint if the legs aren't using that energy of the earth, that gravity, to stabilize us. And then let your weight shift into your right leg. Feel the big toe mound, the little toe mound, the heel. Notice how your hips are even right now. And pick up the left leg. You can stop at 90 degrees. You could even be down here, right? Hand might be at a wall. But activate the left leg. So for me, I know it's active because I'm pushing my hip crease down, but drawing the thigh bone up. We're there. And then slow bends with the right knee, trying to keep the knee in line with the ankle. So what you may find, which I find, is my left side's my cranky side. So the right side is weaker. The left side was cranky when I did this. The right side is just not wanting to do it. I have to really focus to get these muscles to do these single knee bends. Even if you have your hand at a wall, right? What part of the foot are you pushing into? That'll activate different muscles. Wake up that right leg line. And then let that go. Come down. Standing on both legs. We're going to transition down onto the ground for the soothing part of our practice. See you there. Hopefully you woke up some of the muscles in your legs, and that makes your SI joint happy. And now we're going to give the SI joint some particular attention, some soothing stretches. So coming down to the floor, check to see you have your balls available, a block, and a strap. So let's come down. When you first get down there, just draw your knees into your chest. You might rock side to side or make some circles. So we're going into passive mode. Feel the weight of the legs just falling into the belly. And as if you're just massaging that beautiful triangular sacred sacrum on the backside. You can roll from your right hip to your left. Just familiarize that space in your body by using the ground underneath you. to find it, to feel it, to heal it. Then we're going to stop, place the right foot on the ground, cross the left thigh on top of the right as tight as you can go comfortably, and then begin to draw the thighs towards you. And what sometimes feels good is just dropping the thighs down. I'm bringing them towards you, so you're going to begin to feel a little stretch through that back, left side, right. Perhaps it might be more in your buttocks, but right along that SI joint. And I think of keeping the left leg passive and relaxed. My right leg is active, making the movement. So right leg giving the left leg a little ride. You can go up and down. You can also make little circles. Just taking your time, still feeling that massaging sensation on your sacrum. And then I usually come to a place where I just can go right into that edge of the SI joint. But instead of holding my legs here, what you can do is take your right foot to the ground, or if your right foot's going to be up higher, you can put a block or more than one underneath the right foot. And then instead of crossing the legs, try just placing your left heel on your right thigh. So you're getting just that little stretch. And initially, the left hip is probably shortening up towards your armpit. So take your left hand, that L shape of the thumb and index finger, and begin to gently coax the left hip towards the front of the mat. Or find where that place is for you. So if it's more sensation in a good way for you to keep the legs crossed, then do that. You might need to bring the right foot closer to your buttocks. But you're just trying to draw yourself right into that left edge of the sacrum. However you can do that, maybe pushing the left thigh away. Sometimes for me, I need to take the left thigh more to the midline of the body, so towards the right side of my body. But simultaneously, as I'm bringing my left knee towards my right shoulder, you can take the left hip towards the left front corner of the mat, like you're lengthening your left thigh bone out. And just pause. Feel the toes relax in the left leg, the shin, the calf, the knee joint, front and back of the thigh. And let the relaxation of that leg that was just so strong for you, let it flow all the way into the entire left hip. Come into your bones. The muscles no longer need to support you. Bones will hold you in this shape. Just breathing into that back left side of the SI joint. Sometimes stillness is the best way to go. Otherwise, just tiny little movements to explore that relationship right in that joint. I think of joints as relationships between stability and mobility. The SI joint doesn't so much have much mobility. We don't really want it to. When it does, it can become a problem. But just that little bit. And then we're going to take this into a full rotation. So if you have a block under your right foot, remove that. You're going to keep your left foot on your right thigh, but extend your right leg long. So we want the leg to be resting somewhere, the foot, the weight of the leg on that right leg. The right leg is holding the weight of the left leg. Take your left arm out to your side. Keep the left shoulder blade and hand on the ground comfortably. And you can take your right hand to your outer thigh if you'd like. And then slowly take yourself over to the right. If your left shoulder is lifting up, you're going too far. You want to keep that left shoulder blade in contact with the ground and come back. Just rock yourself onto your outer right hip as far as you can go comfortably, feeling that just that little gentle sensation of tugging right in that left SI joint. A reminder that the problem usually happens, the slippage, because of overstretched ligaments in or around the sacrum. So we don't want to overstretch now. It's just a gentle creating of space. And that left leg is heavy, keeping the foot on the right leg. Rocking in and out. You may want to turn your head as well. Keep your jaw relaxed and your eyes. If you find a space where you just want to stop and be still in the twist, you're welcome to do that. And that right hand can come in and gently coax the left hip towards your toes, create more space in the left hip, or just adjust it. I also like to just use my right hand to massage the left hip. Just give it a little rub, a loving rub. Say thank you. Breathe in the nose. You can breathe out your mouth. More of a clearing and cleansing breath. If holding the leg up still is a little bit too much and you've got the block there, the block or blocks can go underneath your left knee to support it too, in addition to the foot resting on the bottom leg. And you can see, if I didn't have agitation, this left knee would probably go all the way to the ground, but that would be overdoing it right now. So just enough where I can feel like I'm creating space in that SI joint. And then we'll come out. Bring it back to the center. So even though we're in the soothing part, we're still going to create stability with both legs in between. So you're going to take the block, put it between your thighs, squeeze the block, hug it tight, and release. You don't need to do anything more than squeeze and release. Just a little bit, get those inner thighs active. If you want to squeeze and lift the pelvis up just a little bit, you can do that, but you should already feel as if you're activating your legs. And then let that go. We'll do those two soothing stretches on the opposite side. So your left leg will stay bent with foot on the ground. Cross your right thigh on your left. So if this is your grumpy side, go slow. And then once your legs are crossed, let the right leg just kind of hang on the left leg. Your left leg is active. And you're going to draw the right leg towards you. And then drop it back down slowly. Just notice the way your weight is going from when your left foot is on the ground, your weight is in the bottom of the sacrum, that tip, the bottom of the triangle. And then as you lift the left leg off the floor, you might feel how the weight comes into the top edge of the triangle of your sacrum. You can just do the up and down or begin to make small circles. Like the left leg is taking the right leg for a ride. And feeling the two sides of the sacrum gently and lovingly being massaged by the ground. Check to see your upper body's relaxed. Jaw, the shoulders. And then when it comes time for a steady hold, take the left foot back to the ground, or if you want a deeper stretch and if it's comfortable, you might put a block or two blocks underneath the left foot to draw the thigh closer to you. And then slide that right thigh bone, inner knee towards your heart. Place your right heel on your left thigh somewhere. And just stop, let the right leg be heavy. Left leg too now. So we're back to the bones supporting this position. Muscles are relaxing. And if you want to tweak it just a little bit, right hand can come in and make more space in the front of that right hip crease, or you might try bringing the right knee towards the center of the body, like the right inner knee is trying to touch the left shoulder. Not too much effort though. Anything that gets you right into that space now in the right side of the sacral joint. And if it's undetectable, it's probably because you don't have SI joint pain. Be grateful for that. Trying to keep the pelvis squared off. Breathing into that right side. Think of lengthening the right knee towards your left shoulder and the right hip towards the front of the mat. So like you're stretching the whole femur bone on your right leg. And just letting it fall towards your body. Last few breaths here. And then we'll uncross that. So you can keep your heel on your leg if you want. We're just going to extend out the left leg. We'll go into the rotation. So right leg's relaxed on top of the left. Take your right arm out to your side. Notice the contact between the shoulder blade and the back of the hand with the floor, and keep that because we're not rotating the upper body, just the hip, just slightly. Left hand can come to the outside of the right thigh and just slowly roll on to your left hip. And come back, little at a time. It will take some effort to roll. And notice how you can start to feel that stretch through your right buttocks. Going just as far as you can to feel the stretch without letting that whole right shoulder jump up. Keep grounded through the upper body, just rotating the pelvis. Think of your pelvis like a steering wheel. You're just taking a little turn to the left. Like riding a bicycle, right? You turn those handlebars really slow. A little bit goes a long way. Gentle, thoughtful rotation. And it can continue in movement if that's your joy today. Or stop and take a hold in that place. You feel just the right amount of stretching through your right lower back, the sacral area. You need a little support, bring a block in, put it underneath your right knee perhaps, but you're also supporting, you can even take the leg all the way back here, supporting the right leg on top of the left leg. And breathing there. And thoughtfully releasing that rotation, coming out. Once again, we'll stabilize in between. Take your block, put it between your thighs. I like using my feet, right? Like little hands down there. And just squeeze the block and release it. It's between your thighs. Feet are as wide as your hips. So we still have that pleasant, familiar sensation of aligning the ears, the shoulders, the hips, the knees, and the ankles. But now we've got the ground supporting the weight of the spine and the upper body, so the sacrum can really relax. And it's just feeling the power of the legs as you squeeze the block and release. And let that go. Got one more stretch, and then we're going to move into the ball work with the myofascial release. So for this one, I have a strap that has a loop if you don't just put the strap around your foot, but I'm very particular with how we put the strap around the foot. I would like you to put it on your heel. That's more grounding for the hip as opposed to the middle of the foot or the front of the foot. So get your strap right on the heel bone. And then in order to fully extend the leg, we'll want you to come forward first as opposed to up. So if you go straight up, you're probably going to have a big bend in the knee. So come forward. You can keep your right knee bent if it's more comfortable, or traditionally you'll often see the right thigh extended. If that's too much stretch in the top of the thigh, or if your low back just popped off the floor, then just keep your right knee bent. It's going to be more comfortable for your back. Push your left heel into the strap. So we want to engage the leg muscles first. So pushing into the strap with the heel, and then like you're reeling in a giant fish, begin to bring the leg up towards the sky. As you're doing so, think of drawing the left hip towards the front of the mat. Keep the pelvis squared off. So we're going to start there, and you may have a little more bend in the knee or be out here. That's absolutely fine. But find that point where you're starting to feel stretch through the back of the thigh, the hamstrings. Then take the strap into the right hand. Take your left arm out to your side. And just like we did the twist in the last one, you're going to very slowly bring the left hip to the right side of the mat. But this time I'm not going to let the left hip lift up. I'm going to keep the left hip grounded, just like we kept the left shoulder grounded in the twist. I'm going to let just the leg go over. You'll get a little more into the IT band, so this outer hip, but also helps to soothe and widen the sacral area. So you'll see a little goes a long way. You might barely be dropping the heel towards that right side of the mat. You might be doing this with this leg extended. What I find is that if I keep the right leg bent, I also have a nice place to rest my left thigh. So I can rest the back left thigh on the right thigh, and then work at bringing the left heel towards my right shoulder, and then the left hip towards the front of the mat. It's like you really find that crease again between the pelvic bone and your sacrum. Keep grounding the outer left hip down into the earth, like you're broadening your pelvis. So the last one was about rotating the pelvis. This one, we're keeping that pelvis flat. And then once you found the spot, you can relax a little bit more. No need to push the heel into the strap. Your arms are supporting the strap. The leg line can just fall. Inner left leg line falling with gravity towards the ground. Maybe keeping that left hip crease open, gently coaxing it towards the front of the mat. But find that good spot. Breathing into whatever you feel. Feeling is healing. Especially when you can say kind things to yourself. And we'll get ready to come out. Bend your left knee. Take that out. I find that when my SI joint goes out, my outer left hip gets cranky too. So that whole TFL area, all of this stuff, I've got a video on that if you need a separate video, but the whole thing gets a little cranky. And then we'll switch sides. So you're going to take your right leg, straps off of the left, put the strap, even if it's two sides. So then you're doing it, I've got this loop, you may not have a loop, you're doing it like this, but you're pushing into the strap with your heel. So that helps to energize that whole leg line. Push the heel bone in, and then extend the leg, so not locking the knee, but take the bend out of the knee. Begin to draw it up. Your left leg can stay bent with foot on the floor, or if you want to stretch the top of the thigh, the hip crease, you can extend it out. First, just begin to open the back of the leg a little bit. Pushing the heel, so we're activating the muscles to get into position, kind of as a mode of protection, and then once we get there, we relax the muscles. Switch the strap into the left hand. Take your right arm out to your side, and begin to bring the right foot towards the left side of the mat, towards the left hip, the earlobe, whatever works, little at a time. Feel it out. So I'm not letting the right hip lift up. I'm thinking of grounding the back of the right hip into the earth. Maybe even draw the right hip towards the toe side of the mat a little bit. So it's like the foot is coming towards my shoulder and the hip is going towards the toe side of the mat. Just like when we did the cross leg stretch. If you want to rest your thigh on the left thigh, if you've got that left leg bent, that sometimes works nicely. Why not? Use your own body to support yourself. Just breathe and be. The being for me right now is definitely a being of gratitude to make it through another session of discomfort. I'm grateful for these practices that have taught me how to do so. And I hope they're helping you as well. And then release that side. Slowly come out. We'll remove the strap. Last thing we're going to do is the myofascial release. We saved dessert for last. So I have a number of different balls here. My favorite being the pinky bouncy for this. I find the tennis ball is a little bit too intruding, but you can decide what works for you. I also have a bigger, partially inflated yellow ball, but I'm going to go with the pinky bouncy for today. We're going to do the left side first. So go back to when we were watching Mr. Bones and think of that sacred sacrum, that triangular bone. So what we want to do is take the ball and you're going to put it somewhere into your meaty part of your butt cheek, but go right up close to that bone on the left side, that sacral bone, without being on it. And you'll know, we have what we call trigger points, where if you find you grit your teeth, you probably found a trigger point. And you don't need to be right on the trigger point. You can be near it. And just getting that ball into that space. So I have this I go right up into the corner there. Most people like to find movement, and you're welcome to do that, rolling around and moving. You'll find if you lift the right hip off the floor, you're going to put a lot more weight and compression of the left hip into the ball. But you can also keep your right hip on the ground for less compression. What I like to do is find the spot and then just let the right hip come down and feel as if I can just transfer all of the weight of my left leg into that left hip and into the ball. So not necessary to move, just to release. I also find more comfort if I let the knees fall together towards the center of the body. So we're creating that internal rotation, creating space around the left SI joint. If you want to roll, feel free to roll, just small, tiny little movements. Check to see your breathing. Breath is always a good indicator of how much you're doing, or if you're doing too much. But particularly with myofascial, I would say, just like if you're in pain and you hold your breath when you're in pain, that's what I do. If I'm holding my breath during myofascial, I'm doing too much. It should feel good. It's a sense of relief. So full inhalation and complete exhalation. Just explore those tissues. I like to think of them not as damaged, but healing. You can move the ball anytime you want. Oftentimes, if the SI joint has been locked up for a while or slipped out, all the muscles in that butt cheek on that side, whichever side yours is, will need a little attention. So explore those. Right now my left leg is bent. You're also welcome to do this with the left leg straight. It's all different sensations. If it has gone into the IT band on the side here, or the TFL, then simply take the ball to the outside and oh yes it has. You can roll onto your side. Somebody made a comment on my video last week that I looked really comfortable, or something, that I didn't look like I was in pain. Well, that's the beauty of cutting videos, because going from seated to lying down last week was not good. Just find yourself, and then we'll come back. We're going to finish by doing the same thing on the other side, although if you know you have a cranky side and you just want to do that cranky side, maybe it was your left side, you can do that. Otherwise, equal time, equal love for both sides. Switch the ball over. Say hello to your right business end. The movement will often help us to find the trigger points. One way you might know is you'll feel when you find those trigger points, all the muscles will tighten up. We don't want them to. The idea is to get to that fascial tissue. We want to relax the muscles as much as possible. So that's where if you're lifting your left hip up, maybe let the left hip come down to the ground, less compression in that right hip, between the hip and the ball. And just feel the weight of your right leg. It's like the weight of all your leg muscles and your bones are falling into that right hip. Releasing and relaxing. There's plenty of sensation and stillness. Just check to see if you're tightening any muscles. Can your brain give permission for those to relax? You can let your knees fall together. That feels good. And you're avoiding the bone itself if you can, where the SI joint is, where the sacrum meets your pelvis. And just right on the outside of that. You can even go all the way into that upper corner. Explore the muscles in your buttocks. Notice any difference between doing the first side and the second side. One might be a lot more reactive than the other. This is really handy just on its own. I came in from doing yard work and did this the other day. Breathing, feeling, and loving. All the parts of your body, even the grumpy ones. Feel free to extend the right leg if that was something you explored and felt good. That's a nice thing to do into the butt cheek muscles. And if you want to get more into that outer hip area, then take the ball, mine would be on your other side, but to the outer hip and just roll onto that side a little bit. Yeah. So you'll be on the right side doing that. Finish up your rolling or continue if you'd like to, as long as you want. I'm going to ask you at least for a moment to come back to the midline space of your body with your legs extended if possible. Find as much contact with the floor as you can with the back side of your body. Notice the heels touching the ground. Those calf muscles that we found were so strong for you. Sense your knee joints, fronts and backs of the thighs. Can you remember what it felt like to feel your thigh muscles wrapping around the bones? How they gave you stability? Give them permission to relax. And into the pelvis. Feel the whole shape of your pelvic bowl from the bottom, the front, the sides, and the back. A special loving attention to the back, the sacrum. And sensing the spine connecting to the sacrum and the way the spine in the upper body is fully supported by gravity, by the earth. Just bringing that extra sense of grace and full rest to the sacral area. Imagine breathing to the space at the base of the spine, the low abdomen, the sacrum. The pelvis holds two of our energy centers, the Muladhara, the root chakra at the base of the spine. It's what grounds us. It's the element of earth, the color red. And the Svadhisthana, which is located in the lower abdomen or the sacrum in the backside. It's the element of water. The color is orange. It represents our sense of passion. Just keeping yourself in these spaces. Enjoy this place for as long as you'd like. When you're ready to come out, be sure to roll to one side, pause on your side. You might even curl up into a little fetal ball, stretching the backside out. Use the strength of your arms to bring yourself back up. Thank you again for joining me. Sorry, the weather hasn't been so good here, so you're going to get some indoor videos too. I appreciate your comments. Please subscribe to my channel, and if you'd like to support me in other ways, you can find me on Patreon. Thank you, patrons, for embodying yourselves and supporting me in doing so. Peace, joy, love, and light.